come out of the PSL this afternoon is that Zola Majavu is returning as the league's prosecutor. You might remember he left the Parktown offices of the Premier Soccer League about a decade ago, having resigned as CEO, having also held the post of league prosecutor some time back. And he's been announced today, and he will be taking up that role up until the end of the current 2021-22 season, and has a lot on his table. He joins me at the moment to go through what he will immediately be looking at. Nande Majavu, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Congratulations on the role, first of all. Good to be back.
Thank you, Benji. I'm humbled, and I've expressed my appreciation to the executive committee of the league through the chairman for the sign of confidence. But for the record, I've never really left the league. For the past 20 years, I've been serving the league in one form of position or the other. But yes, it is confirmed that I have been appointed as the prosecutor, a title that I held for about 11 years previously. So I'm delighted to be back. What am I going to jump onto immediately? Firstly, it is to take care of the backlog. There's approximately 21 cases that need attention, but of the 21, one is trying to categorize them by order of agency and the impact. There's only one or two maybe that could potentially have the effect of disrupting the smooth finalization of the league program. But other than that, it's your normal misconduct cases. In December, I finalized about 11 admission of guilt cases. So these kind of cases vary by order of seriousness, and one will try to prioritize the quick ones, get them out of the way, but also immediately jump on those that could potentially be disruptive. And the third category will be your normal misconduct cases. Misconduct is misconduct, but obviously these are desperate times. We need to find a way of using the January break to try and play catch up. As you know, for each match that is played, there is potentially a case that may flow from there. But I can assure you that there's no crisis. I'm sure we will manage. I have been given the latitude to appoint my own team to assist to make sure that the judicial functions of the league are not adversely affected. And I'm quite confident that we will acquit ourselves well as a collective. And for me, it's nothing new. The rules are still the same. There's just other nuances that have been added as a result of the COVID pandemic that no one could ever foresee. But as I'm speaking to you now, there are charge sheets that I'm currently busy with. Those will go out, and naturally, out of respect to those affected, I prefer not to divulge those details until they have been notified. And once that has happened, I will formally confirm on record who has been charged, what are the charges, and then we will maintain silence. And once the matters have been finalized by the DC, I will then communicate the outcome almost immediately, so that members of the media are not kept speculating, because sometimes if you don't communicate, people tend to cast aspersions or conjure up some theories. That's not my style of operation. I've had an open relationship with the media, but the media must also respect that certain processes must also be respected. But I will be available, I can assure you.
You did mention earlier that you received a sort of a handover from your predecessor. Is the time enough, though? You mentioned a lot of cases on your desk. Is the time enough up until the end of the season to go through everything?
We'll have to make do with what we have. That's why I spoke about the repurposing and reprioritization. Obviously, of particular importance to me and of urgency is to deal with those cases that could potentially be disruptive. There aren't too many of those currently, and one may never know what may happen in the future, but the idea is to deal with a case as and when it happens, deal with it there and then, so that everybody knows where they stand. So I am confident that with the time available, yes, it's not going to be easy, but it's not impossible either. When I first came around in 2000, there was delays in excess of 37 cases. I actually went through my records, and we managed to clear that up pretty quickly, because the rules of the league are evolving, and I am also at liberty to make suggestions on possible amendments that we think might assist in terms of expediting the cases. So the league is not very rigid, but my job is to implement the rules as they are without fear or favor. But in some instances, you do call upon the parties, and if they agree to come before the DC on a shortened period. That has always been allowed in the past. The other advantage, and thanks to COVID, I suppose, in some twist of fate, is that most of these hearings will be conducted virtually. So that also affords one an opportunity to maybe deal with 2-3 cases a day. The other idea, which I'm going to discuss shortly with the team, is to identify, for example, if Leshoro FC has got 5 cases, put them on one day and see if we can dispose of them on that particular basis. Where there are plea bargains that can be entered into, you do that, and then you deal with them in batches like that. Other ideas I may not have, fathomed them now, but having engaged with the collective later this afternoon, one will have a better sense. But one thing that is for sure is we'll achieve this by recategorizing, reprioritizing, and also calling upon affected members to come forward earlier, because the lead time is about 5 days. So if you give 5 days notice, that excludes weekends and public holidays, it means you'll never catch up. But in some instances, I've had a matter that I'm going to enroll now, where both affected parties have agreed to come forward on a day shortened, meaning on 3 days notice as opposed to 5 days notice. But it is not something that you can impose, because the rule book is exactly what it is and you've got to comply with it. But there is nothing wrong in finding other dispensations of making sure that you clear the backlog. My idea is to come beginning of February, we must have cleared the backlog so that we then deal with cases as and when they arise. If we achieve that, in fact, when we achieve that, it will be plain sailing to the end of the season, because the usual turnaround time should be no more than 4 days max, and 4 days calculated from the date on which the summons or a charge sheet is sent out. And some of these cases, there is an option of an admission of guilt fine, and if a member that has been charged with a less serious offense agrees to pay an admission of guilt fine, then they pay that fine. I did 10 in the last week of December, and there's many others that may be diverted on that basis. That's why I'm saying to you, hold me to account at the end of January, because by then I'll be able to give you something that can be supported by empirical evidence to say these were the cases that I received, these are the cases that we finalized, and this is what the cases going forward look like, and this is the optics that we've managed to fine-tune, so that come the end of the season, we should know before the end of the season anyway whether there are red lights. So I would be able to give you that indication on an ongoing basis, and you can hold me to account on that, but I think priority now is just to clear the backlog. And in fairness to my predecessor, the handover that he gave me assisted me somewhat, because I have a sense of how to reprioritize.
And lastly, there's no doubt that the big issue that a lot of people are aware of is the Kaizer Chiefs matter right now. How far are we? Where are we with that case? I understand that there hasn't been any charge as yet or anything like that, but where are we at the moment?
Well, I can confirm that I'm at a process of gathering information related to that matter, and once I have all the relevant information, a call would be made. But I've also read in the media that there's a possible appeal against the decision of the executive committee. If that were to be the case, it's not something that will land on my desk. I also don't understand the dynamics of the appeal and all of those things, because I haven't had sight of those documents. But from a prosecutorial point of view, I am not yet seized with the matter from a disciplinary point of view. But obviously, upon receipt of the information that I have requested, I would be able to make my own independent determination. And once I've made that determination, I will announce it, having notified the affected club as to the steps that I intend taking in line with my constitutional mandate. But at this stage, it's still early days.
All right, Nande Zola Majavu, thank you so much for your time, and good luck. You're going to need that a lot. So that's Zola Majavu on his role, and he'll be looking to tackle that with some urgency. We'll give you everything you need as time goes on in the near future. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Benjamin Leshoro in Parktown, Johannesburg.